You might think you know Aquarius. You might think they're carefree, always social, ahead of their time. The life of the party with a joke for everyone, an idea no one saw coming, and an energy that refuses to stay quiet. But what if I told you, deep beneath all that brilliance is a loneliness nobody talks about? Not the kind that comes from being alone, but the kind that comes from being misunderstood, from being too much for the world to handle, yet never quite enough for anyone to truly see. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, what you thought you knew about Aquarius will be completely transformed. When you walk into a room, people notice you, not just because you're bright or funny, but because you think differently. You see connections most people miss. You question norms many take for granted. You are a rebel, but you are also a healer, a visionary, the one others turn to for fresh perspective. And yet, so many Aquarius feel deeply alone, because while others see the ideas, they don't always see the heart behind them. While others admire the freedom, they don't understand the fear of being caged. While others celebrate your genius, they rarely celebrate your vulnerability. So why is it that someone so charismatic, so innovative, so admired, can also be one of the most emotionally isolated signs of the zodiac? Not by choice, but by experience. Today we're diving into the 5 deepest reasons most Aquarius don't show how lonely they really feel, and why, underneath all that brilliance, there is a longing almost no one recognizes. By the end, you'll finally understand the hidden side of this sign, the side that doesn't ask for help, because it's learned not to expect it. Ready? Let's begin. 1. Expected to be strong, logical, always in control. From the moment Aquarius enters the world, they are labeled different. As children, they ask questions adults can't answer. Their minds are too fast, too curious, too unfixed. They see patterns that don't fit the ordinary. They refuse to sit still. They challenge rules just because they don't feel right. Parents applaud their intelligence. Teachers call them bright. Friends love their humor. But rarely does anyone pause and ask, "What do you feel right now?" For Aquarius, emotional expression rarely matches intellectual expression. They learn early that the world expects them to be rational, detached, unshakable. If you can think your way through anything, then surely emotions are easy too, right? Except they're not. So Aquarius begins to build a brand. Calm, composed, logical, unbreakable. But behind that composed exterior is a heart that doesn't stop twisting. Because Aquarius isn't emotionless, they just translate feelings into thoughts. Where others cry, Aquarius analyzes. Where others shout, Aquarius dissociates. Where others break down, Aquarius disappears into ideas. This becomes a survival strategy, a shield. And before long, Aquarius doesn't just appear unaffected, they start believing they must be. Because if they show vulnerability, if they admit fear, if they reveal confusion, people will think they are weak. Not broken, not human, just weak. So they hold it in, and they pretend their mind is stronger than their heart. Until one day, they look up and realize their internal world has no one truly inside it. They are surrounded by people, yes, but no one who knows what's inside. That's the loneliness of being Aquarius, not absence of connection, but absence of true understanding. The expectation that Aquarius should always be logical and in control becomes a silent prison. Because people admire your brain, but rarely listen to your heart. And over time, that disconnect eats away at you. Slowly, quietly, like a shadow expanding. You learn to smile when you're hurting, to laugh when you're anxious, to answer questions you don't know the answer to. And still, no one asks, what's really going on? That's the loneliness most people never see. 2. Aquarius loves with depth beyond words. Aquarius doesn't love casually. They don't do small talk with the heart. They don't date without intention. They don't give pieces of themselves. They give entire galaxies. When Aquarius loves someone, it's not half-hearted. It's not convenient. It's not fleeting. They connect with the soul, not just the surface. They need a partner who can explore ideas with them. Someone who treasures freedom but also craves authenticity. Someone who can handle deep late-night conversations. Someone who doesn't just want to be seen, but wants to see them. And here's the heartbreak. There are very few people who can meet them there. Many get overwhelmed by that intensity. Some are intimidated by the depth. Some think Aquarius is too much. And when that happens, When the very thing that makes Aquarius extraordinary is misunderstood, their heart recoils. They don't become cold. They become guarded. Because love for Aquarius isn't a game. It's a commitment, a partnership of minds and souls. And if it's not that, they'd rather be alone. Choosing solitude doesn't mean they don't want love. It means they want the right kind of love, one that sees them, understands them, and stays. People think Aquarius avoids relationships because they fear commitment. But that's the opposite of the truth. Aquarius fears unfulfilling connection. They fear loving someone who only stays for parts of them and leaves when the depth becomes too heavy. So they wait, and wait, and wait, because their love is not something they give lightly. And when someone finally matches them, someone who thinks with them, laughs with them, understands them on a profound level, Aquarius doesn't just love, they transform. But until that person comes, their heart remains brilliant and painfully alone. 3. Betrayal breaks them in ways no one sees. Aquarius gives trust carefully, but when they do, they give it fully. They share their visions. They reveal their vulnerabilities. They open their inner world. And when someone betrays that trust, it doesn't just hurt, it shatters them. Because trust for Aquarius isn't casual. They don't hand it out to everyone. So when it's broken, it hits their core. But here's what makes this so isolating. Aquarius rarely shows the pain. They don't dramatize. They don't confront publicly. They absorb. They retreat inward. They analyze what went wrong instead of expressing what they feel. They ask themselves, was it something I missed? Or was I wrong to trust at all? And in that questioning, they begin to guard not just their heart, but their mind. Because to love deeply again, you must be willing to risk your heart breaking again. But once it's broken too many times, Aquarius starts putting up walls, invisible walls, that no one sees until someone actually tries to cross them. But here's the lonely truth. The wall protects them, but it also isolates them. People think Aquarius is distant because they choose to be aloof. But the reality is, they are afraid to let anyone close enough to hurt them again. They aren't cold. They are cautious. They aren't detached. They are still healing. And sometimes the healing process is solitary. Because most people respond to betrayal with anger, but Aquarius responds with silence. And silence distances everyone. Not because they want to be alone, but because they are still learning how to trust their own heart again. 4. Their uniqueness can be misunderstood as provocative. Aquarius lights up a room not by fitting in, but by being unmistakably themselves. They speak differently. They think differently. They live differently. But not everyone celebrates that. Some feel threatened by originality. Some feel inadequate next to brilliance. Some judge because they don't understand. When Aquarius speaks truth, some call it arrogance. When they stand up for themselves, some call it aloof. When they express a bold idea, some call it too much. Too many people fear what they don't understand. So while people may admire Aquarius from afar, many don't welcome their presence up close. Some respond with envy, some with criticism, some with confusion. And Aquarius, who only wanted to express themselves honestly, begins to feel like both an outsider and a spectacle. They learn to moderate what they show. They become smaller than they truly are, not because they want to, but because the world often doesn't have space for their full brilliance. So they protect their light. They only show it in spaces where it's celebrated, not judged. But as a result, they limit how much of themselves they reveal. And loneliness creeps in. Because the world applauds innovation in theory, but steps back when it's staring them in the face. And that contradicts everything Aquarius stands for: authenticity, freedom, truth. They don't shine to outshine others. They shine because that's who they are. But the world doesn't always respond with understanding. And that leaves Aquarius feeling like a genius no one truly sees. 5. Pride and independence can block true support. Aquarius is fiercely independent, not because they don't need help, but because they've learned to survive without it. From a young age, they are praised for thinking for themselves. They are told they are self-sufficient. They are admired for never asking for help. But over time, that praise becomes an expectation, and that expectation becomes a burden. Because the world begins to assume Aquarius can handle anything. And when you assume someone can handle anything, no one offers help. Not because they don't care, but because they think help isn't needed. Yet every human being needs support. Everyone needs comfort. Everyone needs understanding. But Aquarius rarely asks for that. not because they don't want it, but because they tell themselves, if I ask, I might seem weak. If I share, I might be judged. If I fall apart, no one will know how to pick me up. So they hold it in. They struggle quietly. They fight battles internally. And they convince themselves that independence means not needing anyone at all. But loneliness doesn't come from independence. It comes from wanting connection, but being afraid to ask for it. And that fear, at its core, is not weakness, it's vulnerability. Aquarius doesn't fear dependence. They fear disappointment. They fear opening up and no one catching them. So they stay silent. They stand tall. They walk forward. But they do it alone. Conclusion. So what is the truth? Aquarius is not lonely because of circumstance. Not because they reject connection. Not because they don't care. They are lonely because they think deeply when others think shallowly. They love profoundly when others love casually. They trust intentionally when others trust habitually. They give their mind and heart entirely, not in pieces. They see people in ways people rarely see themselves. But in return, they are rarely seen back. And that is the quiet ache of an Aquarius heart. Not lack of people around them, but lack of people who truly understand. It's the difference between being noticed and being known. Aquarius can walk into a room of strangers and leave with applause, but walk into a room of friends and still feel unseen. Not because they aren't loved, but because people don't always have the depth to understand what their soul is asking for. They crave connection not of mind alone, but of heart and mind together. They want someone who doesn't just admire their brilliance, but shares it. Someone who sees them when they are loud and holds them when they are quiet. Someone who doesn't fear their intensity, but embraces it. And until that someone comes, Aquarius will continue to stand tall, continue to shine, continue to appear unbreakable. While inside, they are still longing. Not for attention, not for adoration, but for true understanding, for true connection, for someone who does more than just see their light, someone who lights up next to them. So tell me, are you Aquarius? Have you ever felt this silent loneliness beneath brilliance? Share your experience in the comments. Because maybe, just maybe, your story will be the connection another Aquarius has been waiting for. Because the most brilliant lights in the universe are not always the brightest. They are the ones who learn to shine even when no one was watching. And perhaps that's not loneliness at all, but resilience.